Hey everyone, Raceboy here again with another Forza tips video, and this video is going to be talking about the basics of building cars for circuit racing. Now before I get too far into this video, I want to stress that this is just a basic video, so I'm not going to get into every tip and trick, but it's going to give you a good foundation of what you want to look for when building cars. So I'm going to start with this Toyota Supra, and I want to build it for three different styles of building. I'm going to build it for grip, all-round, and speed. So there's going to be three different versions of this car that you guys are going to see in this video. Now first off, I'm going to buy the car and put an awesome paint done by my friend Mimic on here. So this paint was done for my 10,000 followers milestone on Twitch, so huge shout out to Mimic920, thank you very much for this awesome paint job. I've already got it on my other Supras, but I wanted to throw it on this one too. Now I'm going to start off with a grip build on this car. So basically what I look for first is I go to conversions and I look for engine swaps. Now unfortunately the stock engine in this car is not as strong as the V8, and there's the 5.2 liter V10 from, I believe it's a Lamborghini, and that will be used for the power build because that engine can get a lot more power. I'll put a link in the description below for an engine swap list done by ManteoMax. Huge shout out to him, he's an awesome guy. He has some amazing spreadsheets, a lot of Forza info if you guys want to check that out. But if you guys are ever wondering, go check out his engine swap list. It shows every engine and what cars it can go into and where it's from. So I'm going to start off with a 5.7 V8 swap. Now a lot of people don't like that because, you know, swapping a V8 into a Supra, blah blah blah, it's all horrible and stuff. But unfortunately it does make the car stronger. And from there I'm going to go into the aspiration. Now in aspiration there are 4 different options. The only difference between a single turbo and a twin turbo is the weight. The power you can get out of it is the exact same every single time. So the weight will be the only difference, and sometimes the sound can make a bit of a difference. But that's all you're going to get. Just a weight difference out of there. Now the positive displacement supercharger is sometimes an option, but what you want to go with if possible is a centrifugal supercharger. You will always get your most bang for your buck out of this. So I'm going to be building this car for A-Class. I'm pretty sure that I can fit the supercharger in properly and have it in A-Class where I want it to be. So I'm going to throw that in. Now I'm going to go to aero. Now a lot of people don't like aero on their cars for whatever reason. Personally, race cars have aero, so they have aero for a reason. Downforce to improve cornering and multiple other things. So I'm going to install front aero and the rear wing on this car. And from there, if you want to mess around with the body kit, you can. But most of the time, all it does is add a little bit of weight. The hood does take out a little bit of weight, but I'm going to leave all this stuff until later. If you want to throw a body kit on, feel free. But that's just optional for you. Sometimes it might be a little bit slower, but you know, you never know. So next I'm going to go into tires, and since I'm going for a full grip car, I want to throw on the race tires. Also, full on the max tire width. Again, it's full grip car. And then I'm going to leave the rims until later. From there, I'm going to go into the drivetrain. Now, I want to stress a few things. Do not upgrade your clutch unless you absolutely have to. Same goes with the flywheel and the engine. You want to avoid it if at all possible. So you want to stay away from it because it will bump up your PI more than it needs to be. With a transmission, the only time when I would really put a transmission in is if the gears are extremely messed up and they're horrible, or the car is topping out earlier than I need it to. So for example, if a car is limited by the transmission and I'm running it on a track where I need the extra little bit at the top end, I might throw in a sport transmission just to extend the final drive. But one thing I want to let you guys know, in case you don't know, always check for the transmission upgrades once you're finished building your car, because sometimes it will actually drop your performance index for whatever reason, and then you can fit in other parts along with having an adjustable either gears or final drive, which will come in handy. So for now I'm just going to throw in the race differential. And then I'm going to go into platform and handling, and I'm going to throw on all of this except for the roll cage. Now, about the roll cage, it can come in handy sometimes, but I don't know, for grip cars, I don't generally put it in. Now, you're gonna see a roll cage come in handy. Maybe later, we'll see what happens. But what you want to look for when throwing on the roll cage is you want to look at your acceleration stat or your 0 to 100 time. Now, look at those, and if the roll cage slows it down, generally you don't want to put it in. So, while I'm talking about the stats, I want to touch on something real quick. Basically, the stats are there for the generic view. I don't pay attention to the stats. All I pay attention to sometimes is the handling, acceleration, and 0 to 100, and then I look at the power, torque, and weight. The speed stat lies extremely often. I have a 6.4 Honda Civic, I think, that hits well over 220 miles an hour on Daytona on the oval pretty easily. So don't pay attention to the speed stat because it pretty much always lies. Sometimes you can pay attention when you're looking at stock cars, then the speed stat may come in handy, but after you've started building your car, don't ever pay attention to it. Most of the time it will not make sense at all. Now going into the engine, since it's a grip car, I'm going to want to have some lighter parts. So I'm going to look for the engine parts that will make my car as light as possible. That means the exhaust is definitely a big one. It takes off the most weight out of any engine part. And then I'm going to go into the supercharger here. Now I can't quite fit in the race centrifugal supercharger without going over PI. So what I'm going to do is sometimes I might take out the first upgrade I put in, the air filter. I might take this out and then throw this back in. But then you're a little bit over PI. And again, I do want this as a full grip car, so I'm going to build it also as light as possible. So I'm going to leave a little bit of PI left over there. And then I'm going to fine tune the PI using the driveline and the rims. So basically, this is the end of your build. What you want to do right at the end is you want to check out the driveline and the rims and see how close to the max PI you can get. So I'm probably going to have to put a little bit more power in since, oh, there we go, 701 and 700 on the rims. So basically from here, what I want to do is I want to look at the weight. So 2,648 pounds. And then I want to go back to my driveline and see if I can get a different combination to have a lower weight. There's 55 and 69. 703. Go over here. That is 661. So now when I go back to here, what were the first sets of rims at? 662. So that is saving 1 pound. Now it might not be extremely significant to you, but it does get the most out of your build. So basically when I'm looking at this, I know that this rim is in the second lightest rim class, and this rim is in the lightest rim class. So that's what I was looking at when I was swapping between those two. So I'm going to go back to the other combination of driveline and rim. And then that's how you get the most PI you can possible out of the car. So that's basically a grip build. Nothing special. It's just getting it as light as possible and putting on as much of a tire upgrade as you can. Now I'm going to build an all-around car. Now for all-around, I'm going to be aiming somewhere between probably 5.5 and 5.8 handling for this car. For this one specifically, I want to hit about 5.7 handling. So first off, going to go into the conversions and use the kind of the same system. Run the V8 swap, throw in the centrifugal supercharger, throw in the aero. And then after this is where it's going to change a little bit. I'm going to skip over the tires and go straight to the drivetrain and throw in the differential. And then I'm going to go into platform and handling and throw in all these upgrades. Now, for most cars, they will like the weight reduction more than tires. If you personally prefer tires over weight reduction and it gives you better results, then go for it. But ultimately, having weight reduction is more important than tires, and it will result in a faster lap just because the amount of acceleration you get from removing weight in comparison to throwing on tires is going to be greater. So now I'm going to go back to tires. I'm going to just kind of play with and look to see what happens here. So I can throw the race tires on and have 5/7 handling right out of the bat, but I'm going to run the sport tires and throw in a little bit of tire width. Now tire width is a little bit of preference. Sometimes you'll see different results based on how you drive also. If you're having troubles with your rear end kicking out, that kind of stuff, obviously you want to throw more rear tire width in. If you're having troubles with the car pushing the front end out of the corner and you can't adjust your driving or tune in order to compensate, throw some front tire width on. So for this car, I'm going to run 295s on the rear, and I'm going to bring it up a little bit on the front just to hit that 5/7 that I was looking for. Now from there, I'm going to go into the engine. Now, it depends if you really want to go with an all-around car, or if you want to lighten it up a little bit, make it kind of more of a grippy all-around car. For this one, I'm going to throw in the centrifugal supercharger race right off the bat. And then I'm going to throw in the exhaust and make it a little bit lighter. Then from there, I'm just going to go down the list. Throw in the fuel system, throw in the ignition, check out the displacement here, and then get the last little bit out of the pistons, or you can get it out of the valves. These will lighten your, both of these will lighten your car up a little bit, but not anything significant. So then I'm going to go check the transmission just to make sure that the PI does not drop. And this car, normally it's older cars or muscle cars that the PI will drop on if you try to throw a transmission in. But this one does not do that because the gears are fairly decent stock. Then I'm going to look at the driveline and the rims. So when I'm putting on the driveline, 2 upgrades throws it straight over the top of the PI. And 1 upgrade is only 2 pounds. So that means that upgrading the rims is probably going to throw me straight over. I'm going to look at the rims and find the one that's closest to the stock, and that's the closest to the stock. So it does throw me over the PI limit. So since I know that this will only add 2 pounds, but then adding 8 pounds is too much, taking out 8 pounds is too much, I'm going to look at the hood. Now the hood is normally around 5 or 6 pounds it takes off, but unfortunately it is a little bit too light for this build also. So I'm going to go back in here and just throw this driveline on. Now if you really want to get picky about it, you can go back to the engine build and you can play with these upgrades to get it a little bit lighter or heavier, and then compensate and get it a little bit closer to the PI cap using your rims with the same power, but I'm not going to go too tricky into it. So I could aim again for the 534 horsepower, 532 torque, and then try and get a little bit lighter if I want to go super picky on the engine upgrades, but I'm not going to here because it won't really come out to that much on the track. And that's the all-around build. Now I'm going to do a power build, and I'm going to do about the same stuff I would do with any other car. I'm going to go into the engine swaps first, and I know this engine will get the most power that I'm looking for. So I'm going to throw that in, and then I'm going to throw in the turbos because I know the turbo will also get the most power out of the aspiration conversions. I'm going to go into aero, and I like to run most of my power cars with aero just because you can run them around a track and they'll still be decent in the corners without being too horrible. So I'll throw aero on. Now you can play with that. You can run no aero if you want around most tracks. You can get away with it, especially if you're running a power car. But personally, I like to have it on. It just makes the rear end a little bit more sticky, makes it a little bit easier to drive. I'm going to go into drivetrain here. And one thing I really want to talk about that I passed over on the others is the conversion on the drivetrain. Now I like to leave just about every drivetrain stock. Sometimes this will be good. Most of the time it'll be a better way to go than swapping it, but you can swap some to all-wheel drive. You can swap a all-wheel drive car to rear wheel. You can swap a front wheel to rear wheel or all-wheel. I like to leave them stock for the most part. Some all-wheel drive cars will really hate their existence and not like being a car if you swap them to rear wheel, and some will totally go along with it. Like a lot of the Lamborghinis will like the rear wheel drive swaps, and they will be better because of them. But it really depends. I suggest not swapping to all-wheel if you are a rear wheel car. Generally it will just make your car slower. See, if you look at the PI jump, it is totally not worth it, especially with adding all that weight. Not worth it to throw in the all-wheel drive in this car. Now back to platform and handling, make sure I throw all this stuff in. Now if you're on the cap of your PI and you really need to fit something else in instead, you can play with it. Sometimes I've taken out suspension in a car just because I need to fit in something else. But that's a little bit more tricky and a little bit more risky, and in order to drive a car without suspension, it's quite iffy. So throwing in the weight reduction, right away I know it's at 677 PI. So if I really want to build a power car, I'm going to take out one of those weight reduction upgrades so that I can fit more power in the car. And then of course, going for a full power, pretty much a full power build with aero, I'm going to throw in all of these engine upgrades. Now one thing I want to touch on is the cams. So I would suggest staying away from the cams in just about every car you're building except for a full power car, just because what the cams do basically is they extend your rev range. So as the PI system works in this game, that will bump up your PI more than it will if you're throwing on other engine upgrades, and it also doesn't add very much torque. So basically you're adding a little bit extra horsepower, a little bit extra rev range, and what the game thinks that as is it's going to go faster because of the transmission and how the speed is calculated. So a lot of the times you can get about the same horsepower, maybe about 5 less horsepower, but you'd be getting maybe even 40 more torque, and you might be lighter also, but at the same PI as if you tried to put cams in your car. So generally I would suggest to stay away from running cams in any of your builds. So I'm going to throw the rest of this in. And it's going to be a little bit over PI. Now one thing about the intercooler is I would pretty much always suggest to avoid the oil-in cooling if that's an option. The intercooler is kind of iffy. For power cars I suggest you will put it in. That's a good way to go most of the time. For normal cars I suggest staying away from it because it does add quite a lot of weight for the amount of power you're getting out of it. It's generally not worth it. So I'd suggest staying away from that in most cases. Now right away I see PI 708, alright? I'm building a full power car, I want all of this power. What am I going to do? The only other option is to take out a little bit more weight reduction. So this is a heavier power car, but it is a full power car, so it will be strong in the straightaways. Now I'm going to check the roll cage and check for the acceleration. So the acceleration is green, but not very much. As you can see, the 0 to 100 doesn't change too much, very significantly. So I'm going to leave the roll cage out. Now I'm going to check the transmission. That doesn't drop my PI, and my top speed with the stock transmission, that's plenty for a racetrack. 235, you won't be touching that on any racetrack in this game, except maybe Daytona Oval. So now I'm going to go to the tires. Now I couldn't fit that in anyways, but I just want to touch on this first. I prefer running rear tire width over tire compound on power cars, just because it makes it a lot better for acceleration out of the corners. And the problem with power cars is you struggle to get out of corners on low speeds. So running rear tire width will help that a little bit, and sometimes the roll cage will do the same when you're running older cars. The acceleration, you'll see the acceleration jump up dramatically if you throw the roll cage in, and the PI will also jump up dramatically. So you're going to have a lot of trade-offs when it comes to those. So basically from there it's pick and choose what works best for you as a driver. So I'm going to throw a rear tire width on this. Now they're pretty skinny still, but it's going to make a bit of a difference. If you look at the 0 to 100 time, it does bump it up. And I still have room to play with on the PI. So from there, I'm just going to do the usual stuff, check the PIs, and or check the weights and what I can fit into it as far as driveline and rims are concerned. So 231 and 219, I'm going to see if I can get it somewhere between there with a different combination. 26. And there's 32. So 31 is the way to go, unless I can run a different combination with the hood, but I'm not going to be too picky. One thing I want to talk about with the body kit is, it does say it increases your top end a little bit, but it's nothing significant. So running a body kit won't really do that much. So again, as I said at the start of this, it's just mostly for looks and preference. And it will add a little bit of weight, but you know, it is just for preference. You won't notice too much of it on the track if you decide to throw a body kit in. So I'm going to run with this combination of of rims and driveline. And that's building a general power car for you guys. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully this helped you out, and this will give you some idea of kind of what to do if you're not sure what you're doing. It'll give you a bit of a baseline going into building a car, and hopefully it'll help you guys kind of find out how to build a grip car, a round car, and a power car. Little tips and tricks to help you make your cars a little bit quicker if you decide to build them yourselves. So thanks again. Don't forget to drop a comment, a like on the video. Please share it, and share it with your friends so that they can have this knowledge too. And hopefully this will help you again. So thanks again for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you guys later.